The ultimatum captain, Marcus Rivera, stood on the bridge of the HSS Pathfinder, watching the stars streak past as his ship cruised through the Epsilon sector. It was supposed to be a routine exploration mission, charting new systems and looking for habitable worlds. The crew of 42 had been in space for 8 months and morale was high. They had discovered 3 potentially colonizable planets and mapped dozens of resource-rich asteroids. It was good work, important work, and Rivera felt proud of what his team had accomplished. The communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park, suddenly sat up straight at her station. Her fingers flew across the controls as she adjusted her headset. Rivera noticed the change in her posture immediately. After 3 years of serving together, he could read his crew like a book. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Park said. Her voice carried an edge of uncertainty. "It's not from Earth Command. The signal is using frequencies we've never encountered before, but our systems are translating it automatically. Whoever sent this has technology far beyond ours." Rivera felt his pulse quicken. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. First contact with intelligent alien life. He straightened his uniform and ran a hand through his short black hair. Whatever happened next would be recorded in history books. "Put it through, Lieutenant. Let's see who our neighbors are." The main screen flickered and displayed 3 figures standing in what appeared to be a chamber made of crystalline material that pulsed with soft blue light. The central figure was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like polished copper. Its eyes were large and golden, and it wore robes that seemed to shift colors as it moved. The 2 figures flanking it were different species entirely. One resembled an insect with multiple arms and a chitinous exoskeleton. The other was a floating mass of what looked like liquid metal, held together by some invisible force. "Attention. Vessel of the species called humanity." The central figure spoke. Its voice was pleasant but carried an unmistakable tone of authority. "I am Magistrate Valoran of the Galactic Directive. You have entered regulated space and are hereby ordered to cease all exploration activities immediately. Your species has been identified as a developing civilization that has achieved faster-than-light travel without proper authorization." Rivera exchanged glances with his first officer, Commander James Chen, who raised an eyebrow. "Authorization from whom?" "This is Captain Marcus Rivera of the Human Space Service. Magistrate Valoran, we were unaware that this region of space was claimed by any governing body. Our star charts indicated these systems were unexplored." Valoran's expression did not change. "Your lack of awareness is irrelevant. The Galactic Directive has maintained order in this galaxy for 47,000 standard cycles. All spacefaring civilizations must submit to directive oversight upon achieving interstellar capability. This is Galactic Law, established long before your species existed." Rivera felt a cold sensation in his stomach. The words sounded reasonable on the surface, but the implications were staggering. "Magistrate, are you saying that humanity must submit to your authority simply because we've begun exploring space?" "That is correct. The Directive Article 7, Section 12 states that all emerging civilizations must register with the Directive, accept our guidance, and limit their expansion until they have been properly evaluated. This process typically takes between 300 and 500 of your Earth years. During this time, your species will be restricted to your home system. All colonies beyond your primary star must be abandoned immediately." The bridge went silent. Rivera could feel the eyes of every crew member on him. They had families on the Mars colonies, on the stations orbiting Jupiter, on the settlements in the Alpha Centauri system. Millions of humans had built lives beyond Earth, and if we refuse? Rivera asked quietly. The insect-like being stepped forward. Its voice was a series of clicks and whistles that the translation system rendered into flat, emotionless words. "Refusal is not an option. Species that violate directive law face sanctions. Your vessels will be impounded. Your faster-than-light technology will be confiscated. Your planets will be blockaded until compliance is achieved." Commander Chen leaned close to Rivera and whispered, "Captain, we need to contact Earth Command immediately. This is beyond our authority to handle." Rivera nodded but kept his attention on the screen. "Magistrate Valoran, humanity has no record of this galactic directive. We've been broadcasting signals into space for over 2 centuries. Why is this the first time you've contacted us? Your radio transmissions are primitive and slow. We do not monitor such communications from pre-FTL species. However, your recent development of faster-than-light travel triggered our detection systems. You are now subject to directive oversight. Rivera took a slow breath. He thought about humanity's history, about the struggles his ancestors had faced. Humans had fought wars for independence, for freedom, for the right to govern themselves. They had thrown off empires and dictators. They had written constitutions and declarations proclaiming self-evident rights. And now some alien bureaucracy wanted them to give all that up? Magistrate, I appreciate you reaching out to us, Rivera said carefully. However, I need to inform you of something important about humans. We have our own laws. We have our own government. And we don't recognize any authority we didn't consent to. Velarin's golden eyes widened slightly, the liquid metal being rippled with what might have been surprise. Captain Rivera, you do not seem to understand the gravity of this situation. The Galactic Directive maintains order among 6,347 member species. Our laws have kept peace in this galaxy for longer than your entire civilization has existed. You cannot simply refuse. Rivera smiled, though there was no warmth in it. That's cute, Magistrate. But here's the thing about humans. We've been dealing with people telling us what to do for our entire history. Kings, emperors, dictators, you name it. And every time we've eventually told them the same thing. We govern ourselves. This is not a matter of governance, the insect being clicked. This is a matter of galactic security. Unregulated expansion leads to conflict, resource wars, and chaos. The directive prevents such disasters by forcing species into submission before they even know you exist, Commander Chen interjected. That's not security. That's control. Velarin raised a hand and the other two beings fell silent. Captain Rivera, I am attempting to be patient with you. Your species is young and does not understand the complexities of galactic civilization. But make no mistake, compliance is mandatory. You have 72 of your Earth hours to begin withdrawal from all colonies beyond your home system. Directive enforcement vessels are already en route to ensure compliance. Rivera stood up from his captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. Magistrate, let me be very clear. Humanity did not ask for your permission to explore space, and we're not going to ask for it now. We left Earth because it's in our nature to explore, to grow, to reach for the stars. We've built homes on other worlds. We've raised children in space stations. We've created a civilization that spans multiple star systems, and we're not abandoning any of it because some ancient bureaucracy says we have to. The liquid metal being pulsed with agitation. You are making a grave error. The directive has weapons that could sterilize your homeworld. We have the power to enforce our laws. Then you'd be murderers, not peacekeepers, Rivera said flatly. And somehow I don't think that's how you've maintained order for 47,000 years. You use threats and intimidation to make species comply before they're strong enough to resist. But humans don't work that way. Velarin's expression hardened. Captain Rivera, I strongly advise you to reconsider your position. Contact your government. Explain the situation. I am certain that wiser minds will prevail. Oh, I'll definitely contact my government, Rivera agreed. But I can tell you right now what they're going to say. The same thing our ancestors said to every tyrant who ever demanded obedience. No. The three alien figures conferred among themselves in a rapid exchange of sounds that the translation system couldn't keep up with. Finally, Valoran turned back to Rivera. Very well. You have your 72 hours. Use them wisely, Captain. The directive does not make idle threats. We have maintained order in this galaxy through strength and resolve. Your species numbers in the billions. We represent civilizations numbering in the trillions. Think carefully about the choice you are making. The transmission ended abruptly. The bridge remained silent for several heartbeats before Lieutenant Park spoke up. Captain, should I open a priority channel to Earth Command? Yes, route it through every relay station we have. I want President Zhang and the entire Security Council to hear about this immediately. Rivera turned to Commander Chen. James, get me everything we recorded about those ships. I want to know their capabilities, their positioning, everything. Already on it, sir, Chen replied, his fingers dancing across his console. I'm also pulling up every piece of data we have on potential alien contact scenarios. Though I have to say, none of our protocols covered ancient galactic government demands immediate surrender. Rivera allowed himself a grim smile. No, I imagine they didn't. Over the next hour, the Pathfinder transmitted everything they had learned to Earth. The response was swift and intense. Within 2 hours, Rivera found himself in a virtual conference room with President Zhang, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and representatives from every major nation on Earth. President Zhang, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, spoke first. Captain Rivera, thank you for your prompt report. We've been analyzing the situation, and I have to say your response was exactly right. Humanity will not submit to this galactic directive. General Sarah Okonkwo, head of the Human Defense Forces, leaned forward. Captain, we're immediately recalling all military vessels and positioning them in defensive formations around Earth and our major colonies. If this directive sends enforcement ships, we'll be ready. With respect, General, Rivera said. We have no idea what their military capabilities are. They claim to have maintained order among thousands of species for tens of thousands of years. They might have weapons we can't even imagine. Then we'll adapt, Zhang said firmly. That's what humans do best. We've faced impossible odds before and survived. Captain, I want you to return to Earth immediately. We're assembling a task force and I want you leading it. You're the first human to face these aliens. You understand what we're dealing with. Understood, Madam President. We'll set course immediately. As the conference ended, Rivera stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were coming to enforce laws humanity had never agreed to follow. The question wasn't whether humans would fight. That answer was already clear. The question was whether they could win. The directive enforcement fleet arrived exactly 72 hours later, just as Magistrate Velerin had promised. They emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, their ships materializing in flashes of blue-white light that temporarily blinded every sensor array humanity had pointed at the outer planets. Captain Marcus Rivera stood in the Earth Defense Command Center in Geneva, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The room was filled with military personnel from every nation, all focused on the holographic projection showing the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of the alien vessels. There were 37 of them, each one significantly larger than humanity's biggest warships. My God, whispered Admiral James Petrov, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Look at the size of those things. Our largest carrier would fit inside one of those vessels with room to spare. President Zhang stood beside Rivera, her face calm despite the tension radiating through the command center. Captain, you've dealt with these aliens before. What can you tell us? Rivera studied the formation. The alien ships were arranged in a perfect geometric pattern, surrounding the solar system like pieces on a chessboard. They're confident, Madam President. Look at their positioning. They're not hiding or attempting any tactical advantage. They're making a statement. They want us to see them and understand that resistance is futile. But you don't believe that, Zhang said. It wasn't a question. No, ma'am, I don't, because if they really wanted to crush us, they would have attacked already. They're here to intimidate us into surrender. General Sarah Okonkwo approached the display, her dark eyes analyzing every detail. Our fleet is ready. We have 143 ships positioned throughout the system. We're outnumbered, but we have home field advantage. We know this system better than they do, a communications officer called out from her station. Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the directive fleet. They're requesting to speak with Earth's leadership. Put them through, Zhang ordered. The holographic display shifted to show Magistrate Velerin, his copper-colored skin gleaming under the lights of his ship's bridge. He looked exactly as he had during the first contact, but his expression was harder now, less patient. President Zhang of Earth, I am disappointed that your species has chosen defiance. The 72 hours have elapsed. Your colonies have not been evacuated. Your ships have not withdrawn to your home system. You are now in violation of directive law, and we are authorized to use force to ensure compliance. Zhang stepped forward, her posture straight and commanding. Magistrate Velerin, Earth's answer is the same as it was 3 days ago. We do not recognize your authority over humanity. We did not consent to your laws, and we will not abandon our homes simply because you demand it. Velerin's golden eyes narrowed. You are making a catastrophic mistake. The directive has the power to enforce its laws. We can blockade your worlds, disable your ships, and force your compliance. This does not have to end in violence, but we will do what is necessary. Rivera couldn't stay silent any longer. He stepped up beside President Zhang. Magistrate, may I ask you a question? In 47,000 years of maintaining galactic order, how many species have you actually fought wars against? Velerin paused, clearly not expecting the question. The directive maintains peace. War is rarely necessary when the alternative is so clearly unfavorable for the rebellious party. That's what I thought, Rivera said. You've spent thousands of years dealing with species who submit when threatened. But humans are different. We've been fighting wars since we learned to walk upright. We've fought each other. We've fought our environment. We've fought diseases and disasters. Fighting is part of who we are. So when you threaten us, you're not scaring us. You're just making us more determined. The insect-like being from the first contact appeared beside Valoran. Your determination is admirable but irrelevant. The directive fleet will now commence enforcement operations. Your vessels will be disabled and impounded. Your communication systems will be disrupted. You will comply, willingly or otherwise. I don't think so, said a new voice. Everyone in the command center turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief legal scholar and expert in international law, stepping forward. She was a small woman in her 40s with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She'd been working nonstop since the first contact, and she carried a data tablet filled with information. Magistrate Valoran, my name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I've spent the last 3 days studying every piece of information we have about your galactic directive, including the legal framework you cited during your first contact with Captain Rivera. And I found something very interesting. Valoran's expression shifted slightly. What are you talking about? Vasquez smiled. It was the smile of a lawyer who had found the winning argument. You cited Directive Article 7, Section 12 as the basis for your authority over humanity. This article states that all emerging civilizations must submit to directive oversight upon achieving faster-than-light travel. Is that correct? Yes, that is the law. But Article 7, Section 12 was amended in Cycle 42,317 by the Galactic Council. The amendment added a critical clause that you failed to mention. Would you like me to read it? The command center went silent. Even the alien beings on the screen seemed frozen. Valoran's copper skin appeared to darken slightly. Vasquez continued, reading from her tablet. The amendment states no species shall be subject to mandatory directive oversight if they have established self-governance protocols and demonstrated peaceful coexistence among their own population for a minimum of 2 standard cycles prior to achieving FTL capability. Humanity has had unified global governance for 43 years. We achieved FTL travel 37 years ago. By your own laws, mandatory oversight doesn't apply to us, the liquid metal being pulsed with agitation. That amendment was created for species discovered by the directive, not for species who develop FTL independently. The amendment doesn't specify that distinction, Vasquez countered. The language is clear. Any species that meets the criteria is exempt from mandatory oversight. Humanity meets those criteria. Rivera watched Valoran carefully. The magistrate's body language had changed. He was no longer projecting absolute authority. There was uncertainty in his posture, hesitation in his movements. Furthermore, Vasquez continued, pressing her advantage. Article 1, Section 3 of the Directive Charter states that all member species have the right to consent before being bound by directive law. You attempted to impose your laws on humanity without our consent, and without informing us of our rights under your own legal framework. That's not law enforcement, Magistrate. That's tyranny. President Zhang stepped forward. Magistrate Valoran, it seems your directive has been operating outside its own laws. The question now is, what are you going to do about it? The 3 alien beings conferred among themselves in hushed tones. The command center remained tense, every person holding their breath. Rivera could see calculations happening on tactical displays as military commanders prepared for multiple scenarios. If this went wrong, if the directive chose force over law, the next few minutes would determine humanity's survival. Finally, Valoran turned back to face them. His expression was harder to read now, but there was something different in his eyes. Respect, perhaps, or maybe just acknowledgement of an uncomfortable truth. Dr. Vasquez is correct, Valoran said slowly. The amendment she cited does exist. It was created over 5,000 cycles ago to address concerns from several member species about directive overreach. However, in the thousands of cycles since then, it has rarely been invoked. Species typically agree to directive oversight, willingly once they understand the benefits. So, you attempted to force humanity into compliance without even checking whether we qualified for exemption, Rivera said. That's a pretty significant oversight for an organization that supposedly maintained galactic order for 47,000 years. The insect being clicked rapidly. The error was procedural. It does not change the fundamental reality, Species that operate independently often cause problems. They engage in expansion that conflicts with established territories. They develop weapons that threaten galactic stability. The directive exists to prevent such chaos. Then offer us partnership, not subjugation, President Zhang said firmly. Humanity is willing to learn about galactic civilization. We are willing to cooperate with other species, but we will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not abandon our colonies. And we will not accept oversight from a government we did not choose. General Okonkwo added, and if you try to force us, you'll find that humans are very good at making things difficult for those who attack us. We may not have your advanced technology, but we have creativity, determination, and a very long history of punching above our weight class. Velerin was silent for a long moment. Then surprisingly he smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien features, but it seemed genuine. I have been a magistrate for 800 of your Earth years, he said. In that time I have overseen the integration of 43 species into the directive. Never have I encountered a species quite like humanity. You are bold, argumentative, and thoroughly prepared to fight a battle you cannot possibly win. We've won battles we couldn't possibly win before, Rivera said. It's kind of our specialty. I am beginning to understand that, Velerin replied. Very well. The enforcement fleet will withdraw. Earth and its colonies will be recognized as an independent sovereign entity. However, this does not mean you are free to operate without any galactic oversight. What does it mean? Zhang asked. It means you will be offered partnership instead of subjugation. The directive will assign a diplomatic delegation to Earth. You will be given access to galactic databases, technologies, and knowledge. In return, you will agree to respect established territorial boundaries and participate in the Galactic Council as an observer species until you are ready for full membership. Dr. Vasquez studied her tablet. That arrangement is consistent with Article 12, Section 7, which governs relations with exempt species. We can work with that. But understand this, Velerin continued, his tone serious. Partnership requires responsibility. There are dangers in the galaxy that you cannot yet imagine. There are species far more aggressive than the directive. There are ancient weapons and technologies that could destroy entire star systems. The directive's laws exist not just to control but to protect. You will need to learn these things if you wish to survive. President Zhang nodded. We're ready to learn, but we'll do it as equals, not subjects. Agreed, Velerin said. Then he did something unexpected. He placed his right hand over his chest in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. I will make a personal recommendation to the Directive Council. Humanity should be moved to accelerated partnership status. You have proven yourselves to be intelligent, resourceful, and principled. These are qualities the Directive values highly. Rivera felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had done it. They had faced down an alien empire and emerged not just intact but with respect and recognition. Thank you, Magistrate, Zhang said. We look forward to learning more about our galactic neighbors. The transmission ended and the command center erupted in cheers. Military personnel hugged each other, and even the most stoic generals allowed themselves smiles. They had been hours away from a war they might not have survived, and instead, they had achieved something remarkable. Admiral Petrov approached Rivera, extending his hand. Captain, you started all this by refusing to back down. You gave humanity the courage to stand up for itself. Rivera shook his hand. I just did what any human would do, Admiral. I refused to kneel. President Zhang gathered the senior staff around her. We have work to do. The directive is sending a diplomatic delegation, which means we need to prepare. We need scholars to study galactic law, scientists to understand their technology, and diplomats to navigate galactic politics. This is just the beginning, Dr. Vasquez smiled. And we did it by using their own laws against them. The directive thought they could intimidate us into submission, but they didn't count on humans actually reading the fine print. That's another thing we're good at, Rivera said. Finding loopholes and exploiting them. I have a feeling we're going to do just fine in galactic politics. Over the following weeks, the transformation began. Directive diplomatic vessels arrived at Earth, bringing ambassadors from dozens of species. Human scientists received access to technologies that seemed like magic. Doctors learned about medical treatments that could cure diseases humanity had fought for centuries. Engineers studied propulsion systems that made human FTL drives look primitive. But more importantly, word spread throughout the galaxy. A young species had stood up to the directive and won. Other civilizations that had chafed under directive oversight began asking questions. If humanity could negotiate partnership instead of subjugation, why couldn't they? Captain Marcus Rivera stood in his quarters aboard the Pathfinder, now officially designated as Earth's first diplomatic vessel. He looked out at the stars and thought about everything that had happened. Humanity had taken its first real step into galactic civilization, not as subjects or subordinates, but as equals. His communication console chimed. It was a message from President Zhang. Captain Rivera, the directive has invited Earth to send representatives to the Galactic Council. They want you to lead the delegation. Apparently, Magistrate Velerin specifically requested you. He says the galaxy needs more individuals who aren't afraid to challenge authority when it's wrong. Congratulations, Captain. You're now Earth's first galactic ambassador. Rivera smiled. It seemed that by refusing to take orders, he had earned the galaxy's respect. And really, that was the most human thing possible. Outside his window, stars stretched into infinity. Somewhere out there, thousands of species lived their lives, built their civilizations, and pursued their dreams. And now, humanity would walk among them, not as servants or subjects, but as partners and equals. All because one captain had looked at an ancient alien empire and said 5 simple words. That's cute. We have our own.